What's up, my name is GLoWhNo. Welcome to another installment of Forgotten Easter Eggs. Since we've already covered 2 out of the 3 titles packed into the orange box, I figured let's wrap up the list by covering both games in the Portal series. If you are new to Forgotten Easter Eggs, here I'll showcase nostalgic Easter eggs in games that you either didn't know or maybe even forgot about. But enough rambling, let's get on to the video. To preface this list of Easter eggs, first I want to plug a previous video I had made regarding the Ratman storyline. This video will not include any of the dens or anything regarding the radio transmissions, as everything has been covered within that video. If you are interested, the link will be both in the description and at the end of the video. Anyone who has ever played Portal, finished the game or not, recognizes the classic first area of the game. You wake up locked inside of a glass cube known as the Relaxation Vault, with nothing but a bed, a toilet, and a table with some items for you to mess with. Aside from the usual waiting 20 minutes before being able to leave and throwing a radio into the ceiling lamp, you may not know that you can actually use the toilet that is in your room. Once you press E, not only will the toilet flush, but it will also reply to you with the line,
"Your business is appreciated."
For our next Easter egg, let's cover a GLaDOS voice line that can only be triggered by trapping yourself within Test Chamber 5. Normally, for this specific puzzle, you are meant to collect 2 weighted storage cubes and place both of them on these 2 buttons, thus opening the door. Once you enter this room, the door will shut behind you, blocking you from returning into the previous area. And though this may be the case, if you decide to open the door like normal and instead of entering the room, shoot a portal through the door, then place one of the cubes inside of the orange portal, you will not only hear a hidden voice line from GLaDOS, but both buttons will become inactive and the door will be open.
You're not a good person. You know that, right?
While we are on the topic of hidden dialogue via trapping yourself, if you head over to Test Chamber 13 and play through the puzzle as you would normally, you should take notice of the inner walls of the exit chamber. If you were to place one portal inside of the chamber and one on the outside, you can now shove both storage cubes into the now inaccessible room. This will prompt GLaDOS to say another line that is less special than the one mentioned prior, since this can be triggered in multiple chambers.
Despite the best efforts of the Enrichment Center staff to ensure the safe performance of all authorized activities, you have managed to ensnare yourself permanently inside this room. An escape hatch will open in 3, 2, 1.
Near the end of Chamber 19, just before the boss fight with GLaDOS, there are a few Easter eggs you can find scattered throughout the nearby offices. Within some of the rooms, you may notice small clipboards with seemingly little information. Though, if you take a closer look, you'll realize these clipboards have strange implications. Taking a look at the first clipboard, you can see test results for an individual with the ID number 234, showing that they have passed their examinations. However, if you decide to look at the similar second clipboard, you can see these test results are of a chicken that has seemingly failed whichever examinations they underwent. While you are still near the end of Chapter 19, look around for one of the many office-designed rooms. What you're going to be looking for is a keyboard. Now, as you can see, there is something peculiar about its design, as E, R, I, P, A, S, D, H, and N are highlighted for a seemingly unknown reason. For context regarding the backstory, first we will have to take a look at none other than the portal gun. If you are unaware, the portal gun's government name is Aperture Science Handheld Portal Device, or ASHPD. This abbreviation bears a striking resemblance to the protagonist of Half-Life Opposing Force's name, Adrian Shepard. Due to this strange coincidence, the developers decided to lean into the idea by making the keyboard highlight each letter of Adrian Shepard's name. Now, on your way towards the end of the game where you fight GLaDOS, rather than taking a left turn and heading into the fight, go right and peek into this window right here. What you will see is a slideshow used for briefing employees about Black Mesa. Though this may seem like a reference to a game outside of Universe, it is important to know that both Aperture Laboratories and Black Mesa share the same in-game world, as many references to each other are mentioned within both titles. Another instance of Black Mesa being mentioned comes in the form of the rapidly shifting images on one of the many monitors within the chamber holding the GLaDOS fight. In between the many images of Cake, you can see the one and only Black Mesa logo. For our final in-game Easter egg, let me show you the infamous Intelligence Core. You may know this little guy not from his usefulness in the GLaDOS fight, but rather from his lengthy rambling about cake ingredients. Of course, throughout this fight, you're on a time limit, so listening to this little guy is not necessarily high on the priority list. But if you just so happen to do such a thing, you'll notice that eventually the ingredients become strange, to say the least.
Fish-shaped solid waste, fish-shaped dirt, fish-shaped ethyl benzene, fish-shaped volatile, organic compounds, and sediment-shaped sediment. An entry called How to Kill Someone with Your Bare Hands. Adjustable aluminum head positioner, slaughter electric needle injector, cordless electric needle injector, injector needle driver, injector needle gun, cranial caps, and it contains proven preservatives, deep penetration agents, and gas and odor control chemicals that will deodorize and preserve putrid tissue.
Moving on to Easter eggs outside of the game, let's take a look into the files. Using a VTF viewer, you can find a file titled wetfloorsign.vtf. Once viewed, you will see a very dated meme showing someone getting kicked with the words, "This is Sparta." Now, for our final Easter egg of Portal 1, this one is quite in depth, so sit tight. So, after the release of Portal, players found that if you type the URL aperturescience.com into your search engine, a page would open showing a command line accompanied sometimes by video footage. Of course, normally I wouldn't consider this an Easter egg in-game, but after entering Test Chamber 17's Ratman Den, you will find writings that reveal both a username and a password to be used on the website. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, shortly before the release of Portal, this website was accessible. You're able to log into this website using any series of letters as the username, given you type more than 2 letters, and either Portal or Portals as the password. Here, you would be allowed restricted access to a command interface, where you're able to type several commands, some that work and some that do not. If you type help after logging in, you'll be prompted with multiple commands for you to choose from. Out of this list, there are a large majority that show error messages, including append, attrib, copy, erase, format, interrogate, rename, and tape disk. For the ones that do in fact work, however, you can type dir to find a hidden command where if you type apply, you can fill out a 50-page application form for Aperture Laboratories. And lastly, play. On its own, play will prompt you with a message asking what you would like to be played. If you type play Portal, you'll be redirected to a now private YouTube video of David Copperfield's Tornado of Fire. Now going back to the username and password found in one of the Ratman dens, if you input both of these into the website, you will be given admin access to the entire page, allowing you to access new commands that you didn't have access to prior. Typing dir once again, instead of showing only apply, you can now access the hidden notes command, which will provide some historical insight into Aperture Science and the CEO. Interrogate also brings up something special. If you typed this command as a default user, you would see the message illegal attempt to show disciplinary action. Instead, as an admin, you'll be asked to provide an employee's name. Regardless of what is typed though, you'll never receive anything other than the message unknown employee. Though these are the only visible commands that function for both, if you happen to type "the cake is a lie" into the window, you'll be greeted with an ominous message from a fellow employee of Aperture Science. Quote, "When was the last time you left the building? Has anybody left the building lately? I don't know why we're in lockdown. I don't know who's in charge. I did find out a few things, like these terminals don't have to tap out characters one at a time. And while we are all working on 20-year-old equipment, somehow they can afford to build an enrichment center? Check out this security feed. Whatever the hell a relaxation vault is, it doesn't have any doors. I don't think going home is a part of our job description anymore. If a supervisor walks by, press return." Now that we've completed discussing Portal 1, let's discuss the sequel, Portal 2. At the beginning of Portal 2, Shell wakes up in a strange-looking room where a robotic voice requests you to perform specific actions as a mental and physical evaluation. Once you complete these tasks, you'll be instructed to return to your bed and sleep. Before sleeping, take a look at the painting, mural, and bed, remembering what each look like. Now, sleep. After you sleep, the robot voice will inform you that you've been asleep for 9999 repeating. and though you cannot hear very clearly how long his repeating of 9 goes on for, if you look into the game files, you can find that it plays for as long as he is speaking. This implies Shell has been out for quite the amount of time, and it is especially implied by the shell-shaped indentation on the mattress. Going back to the painting on the wall, instead of the bright and calming atmosphere, you will now notice that it is dark and gloomy. If you take a look at the mural on the wall, instead of the previous man sitting next to the water as the sun is setting, you now see a full moon with a wolf howling in place of the man. Now, Portal 2 has many callbacks to Portal 1 as you'd expect a sequel to have. This chamber in particular is no exception. Just like the previous game, this room holds another Easter egg found by trapping yourself as expected. Perform the same sequences as last time, sticking the storage cube through the orange portal and removing the blue one. Similar to last time, you'll get an interesting dialogue trigger, except not from GLaDOS.
You have trapped yourself. Congratulations. The exit door is now open.
Another special dialogue triggered the same way comes in Chapter 2, Chamber 7, where you are tasked with transporting a companion cube to a button at the top. I never realized this at the time, but once again, inside of the exit chamber walls, you can place portals. So, placing one portal in the room and one on the outside, you can stuff that little guy in there, and rather than GLaDOS just opening the door for you, this audio will play.
Uh-oh, you're stranded. Let's see if the cube will try to help you escape. Actually, so that we're not here all day, I'll just cut to the chase. It won't. Any feelings you think it has for you are simply byproducts of your sad, empty life. Anyway, here's a new cube for you to project your deranged loneliness onto.
Taking a break from incorrectly solving puzzles, let's move on to a voice line Easter egg found within Chapter 2, Chamber 8. Of course, everyone knows about this specific chamber, as GLaDOS infamously explains something regarding the current test. She will then speak incredibly fast, telling you afterward if you have any questions, just remember what she said. For the longest time, I had no idea what she was saying, but only when you slow it down will you realize that it is a quote from the first paragraph of the book, Moby Dick.
And methodically knocking people's hats off. Then I account it high time to get to sea as soon as I can.
You're not going to believe me when I tell you this, but we have just a couple more dialogue triggers found by, of course, trapping yourself. For our third trap voice line of Portal 2, head on over to Chapter 3, Chamber 10. At first glance, this test seems very intimidating, as not only is it incredibly large, but it isn't blatantly obvious where to perform this soft lock. The first thing you want to do is rob this poor floor panel of its storage cube. Then, proceed through the puzzle as normal until you get the redirection cube as well. Place a portal on this wall right here, jump down to collect the storage cube, and bring it back up. From here, this is it. Just jump back down, remove your portals, and GLaDOS will angrily say this.
If you think trapping yourself is going to make me stop testing, you're sorely mistaken. Here's another cube.
After this one, I promise you we are done with soft locks, but for now, head to Chapter 3, Chamber 15. This one is incredibly simple. First, you'll want to just play through the level as normal until you're near this button. Stand on the button just long enough so that you can shoot a portal into the room as the glass lowers. Quickly step off the button and place a second portal for you to walk through. Once completed, just remove your second portal, and I bet you didn't see this one coming, GLaDOS will force you to complete the test, but not before very passive-aggressively saying this.
Oops, you trapped yourself. I guess that's it then. Thanks for testing. You may as well lie down and get acclimated to the being dead position. I'm kidding. Not about you trapping yourself, though. That really happened. Here, I'll lower the glass. Go on. Finish the test.
For now, let's show off a few turret-specific Easter eggs. First, let's quickly go to Chapter 3, Chamber 16. As you enter the testing area, you should immediately notice the red laser sticking out of this vent. For now, leave this little guy alone and progress with the test as normal, destroying these turrets and securing both the storage and redirection cubes. From here, align everything exactly how I have it and vaporize the turret. You will then gain access to the vent, and you'll hear a very ominous but calming song, Turret Wife Serenade. The next turret Easter egg comes in the form of an incredibly talkative robot referred to as the Oracle Turret. The first time you meet this little guy will be near the end of Chapter 1, Chamber 7, shortly after Wheatley disengages himself from his management rail. As you progress, you'll see the Oracle Turret pleading with you to save it from the predicament it has found itself in. Your second and most well-known interaction with the Oracle Turret comes in the form of Chapter 5 Turret Control Center, where on a conveyor belt you can see the turret heading towards certain death. If you happen to save it, a few voice lines will play with very interesting parallels.
Prometheus was punished by the gods for giving the gift of knowledge to man. He was cast into the bowels of the earth and pecked by birds.
As the most well-known voice line from the Oracle Turret, this one of course is referencing the events of Portal 2, GLaDOS being Prometheus in this situation. GLaDOS gave Wheatley the gift of knowledge, being that he was created with the sole purpose of being a moron in order to make GLaDOS dumber. After this happened, Wheatley lashed out by breaking the elevator, sending you and GLaDOS into the bowels of the earth, with the parallel being completed as you find GLaDOS being pecked by birds.
Get mad. Don't make lemonade.
These voice lines need absolutely no explanation, but if you were unaware, these lines are direct quotes from Cave Johnson, famously ranting about lemons in Chapter 7.
It won't be enough.
This voice line is referencing the Portal 2 graphic novel, as here you can see Doug Ratman telling Henry that a morality core will not be enough to control GLaDOS, as you can always ignore your conscience.
Her name is Carolyn.
Finally, this line is referencing Cave Johnson's assistant, Carolyn, whose consciousness just so happens to reside within GLaDOS. Wrapping up our list of voice line Easter eggs, let's take a quick look at one from Wheatley in the final part of Chapter 5. Throughout this section, you were tasked with literally replacing GLaDOS with Wheatley, as you plug him into the mainframe in order to give him full control of the facility. As he is gloating about his newfound abilities, he randomly speaks Spanish, and then says he has no idea what he said, but can find out.
Estás usando este software de traducción de forma incorrecta. Por favor, consulte el manual.
What Wheatley is saying happens to be, you are using this translation software incorrectly, please consult the manual. Moving on to co-op Easter eggs, you may not know, but you can find 2 Terminator references hidden in plain sight. The first one being located in Chapter 6, Chamber 9. If you make your way through the chamber and enter the room with the Let's Work Together poster, you can find a door cracked open. Shooting a portal into this room and heading in, you can find an arm in a tube, similar to one in Terminator 2. The second one is anywhere there's water. Playing as Peabody and watching Atlas dive headfirst into the discolored water, there's a chance for him to stick his thumb out of the water as he sinks. While we are on the topic of our co-op team, you may not know that Peabody is visible when in single player. If you start up Chapter 8, Chamber 15, Wheatley will start out surprised that you are alive, stating that he's making a test for you, then breaking a wall and revealing an exit. As this wall breaks, you may not notice because of how insignificant it is, but if you look at the door, you can see Peabody standing still before running out of the chamber. Though we are at our final Easter egg of today's video, I wanted to end this one with something strange I hadn't even realized existed until making this video. Apparently, there's a character in the Portal universe that was hidden in plain sight. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm referring to Hoopy the Hoop. If you're like me, you might be incredibly confused as to who Hoopy the Hoop is, and though you may not recognize the name, you have definitely seen this guy before. At the end of Portal 1, after the implosion, you will see a giant metal hoop fall directly in front of your face, nearly killing you in the process. This is Hoopy, and apparently he also makes several appearances throughout Portal 2. In Chamber 1, when you come face to face with GLaDOS lying on the ground, you see none other than Hoopy. If you think you can escape from him, entering Chapter 2, Chamber 2, hidden underneath a nearby floor panel, once again, you realize there is no freedom. You may think passing a few more tests can get you out of the clutches of Hoopy, but in Chapter 2, Chamber 6, within this Ratman den, he resides. Of course, single player is not safe. These pre-made tests only allow him to get stronger. You decide to retreat to the test chamber creator in hopes that maybe you can escape. But little did you know that just as you complete your newly created test, as you try to escape one final time, Hoopy is always one step ahead of you. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, I have tons of other content similar and not so similar to the one you watched just now. If you want to support me and the channel, make sure to like and subscribe, but if you're feeling like going a step further, become a member today for some great benefits. Speaking of channel members, I want to thank the amazing individuals you see on the screen right now, and of course, I'd especially like to thank both Floofy Goober Zach and Anita Cube for purchasing the GLoWhNo consumer membership tier.